In what areas of your life are you direct and bold? Where do you confidently go after what you want? Even if you are a floaty Pisces or a placid Taurus, there will be areas of your life where you are more of a go-getter, more assertive, and more daring. In astrology, these kind of forceful energies are shown by the planet Mars and the sign of Aries. This week, Mars moves into Aries, so we're going to see more get up and go, more active energy. Along with that, more friction and conflict, but the chance to start new things with a lot of drive and determination. The upside is that you might actually find you're more self-assured in one area of life, more decisive and courageous. Despite the challenges over the next 6 weeks with Mars in Aries, you will be required to take action, make decisions, and move forwards in that Aries part of your chart. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. My name's Fiona of Sun and Moon Calendar. In this video I'm going to talk about the transits of the week ahead, the week beginning the 5th or the 6th of April. I'll talk about the transits one by one as we go through the week, the astrological transits that affect our lives with the energy, with the mood that we're in, the little decisions and the big decisions that we make. And after I've talked about those weekly transits, I'm going to talk about Mars moving into Aries, bringing lots of energy for initiation and developing new things, moving out into new ground, and a bit of a fighting energy as well. So we'll have a more focused look at Mars's 6 weeks that it's going to spend in Aries, and then do an all sign breakdown so that you know how that's going to affect you, what part of your life you're going to have this greater amount of energy and determination and boldness in. Okay, so to introduce myself a little bit more, I'm based in New Zealand, but this astrology is for the whole world. I make calendars like this one. This is for New Zealand and this one is for Australia, and I'm sorry I don't have calendars for the rest of the world yet, but the calendars use lunar months so that we're following that very fundamental astrological cycle, astronomical cycle, which affects us all. And I use Western tropical astrology and whole sign houses. Let's get into the video with an overview of the week to begin with. An overview of the week beginning the 5th or the 6th of April. I feel like this week has a lot of powerful warrior-like energy. And that can be wonderful for starting new things, for breaking into new ground, and overcoming challenges with boldness. I say that we have this energy because of Mars moving into Aries and the Sun in Aries at the moment, where the Sun is exalted, and also Saturn and Neptune. So much energy in Aries. And also there will be this energy of moving forward to get things done, and that is because of all that I said about Aries, but also we have the last quarter moon, and that is the Sun and Moon at square to each other. So lots of power for moving forward with things this week, being a warrior in your life, taking life by the reins and taking charge of your life. So really powerful for that, but also the challenging energy of people around us and the world as we know being more ready to fight, more ready to speak sharp words, and maybe a little bit of a tendency to be impulsive and impatient. So we'll talk about that as we get especially to talking about that Mars energy. All right, so here is the lunar month of Pisces. We are still in the lunar month of Pisces. This is how it's laid out in the calendar, and this is a page from the New Zealand calendar with a school of fish representing Pisces. Okay, so you can see the lunar month, the grid of the month starting from new moon and building up to full moon, which we had last week. So here is a close-up of that grid part, and we are in the week, nearly the last week actually, the second to last week of the lunar month beginning the 6th of April or the 5th of April if you are in the northern hemisphere. So here is that week. On Sunday the 5th or Monday the 6th of April, the Sun is square Jupiter. Then on Wednesday the 8th or Thursday the 9th of April, we have Mars in its final degrees of Pisces position at the moment, sextile to Uranus. On Thursday the 9th and Friday the 10th, Mars enters Aries, that is the main topic of this video, and on the same day we have the last quarter moon. So those are the transits, not so many, but lots of energy despite that. Last week we had the full moon in the sign of Libra, so we're just coming away from that now. The moon is waning. It's a time for finishing things off over this part of the waning lunar month. But of course there's other energy for starting new things with all that Aries energy. You can go back to my video from last week to learn more about that full moon and how it might still be affecting you. And there's a chart of the moon, so you can look up everything that's going on the chart. This week's transits, so we're going to start with the Sun square Jupiter, and that is on Sunday the 5th or Monday the 6th of April, depending on where you are in the world. The Sun is about our self-expression, our vitality, even our ego, how we creatively express ourselves in the world and people look to us. There's a performance aspect with the Sun. Jupiter is about expansion and growth and opportunity, luck even, optimism. Both of these have a lot of confidence. When there's a square aspect, there's some challenge. Mostly there's a lot of great energy with this. There's opportunities that could come along. There can be luck and there can be this energy of growth, expansion, expressing yourselves freely in ways that come just naturally to your heart. So heartfelt expression. The square aspect might mean that we overdo it a little bit, like maybe we get a little bit overconfident, a little bit too much in some situations. So I've said in the calendar, avoid overconfidence and overindulging the ego. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having an ego, but of course we don't want it to get too carried away. So just to remember that with the Sun square Jupiter. And then we're going to talk about Mars sextile Uranus. So Mars is just in the last degrees of Pisces on Wednesday the 8th or Thursday the 9th of April when this happens. Uranus is in the very last degrees, just finally shaking things up in the sign of Taurus, where it's been for the last 7 years. This might be, I need to look it up, this might be one of the last aspects that Uranus makes in the sign of Taurus. It's going to be moving into Gemini at the end of April, which is very significant. It will be in Gemini for 7 years and bringing all these new developments to communication. But I digress. Uranus in Taurus is about shaking up some things that are stable, like our financial institutions, resources, even the earth. Mars has a lot of energy. Uranus has a lot of energy. Both of them like to make changes and move forward. So the sextile aspect is supportive of that. So this could be bringing energy to do something kind of unusual, unconventional, quite authentic to what you believe in, because Uranus is very authentic and original. And Mars will be helping with that. So there could be a drive forward to do something that's a little bit disruptive in the world, but it's authentic, it's truthful, and maybe a little bit revolutionary even. So I've written in the calendar about that positive action towards innovative ideas and humanitarian causes. Uranus likes to find great grand solutions to solve problems for humanity. Okay. So that's Wednesday the 8th, Thursday the 9th of April, Mars sextile Uranus. And then we're going to talk briefly about the last quarter moon. I forgot. Mars enters Aries first. So Thursday the 9th of April or Friday the 10th of April, Mars enters Aries. Mars is powerful in Aries. This is Mars's home sign. It also rules Scorpio. And Mars will be there until the 18th or 19th of May, being very powerful, very fiery, very initiatory and ready for a fight, ready to go out and get what it wants. So this is very strong energy, and that's why it's the topic of this video. So Mars is powerful. Take action, initiate new ventures, fight a good fight. Neptune is also in Aries, encouraging us to be idealistic and hopefully not to glamorize fighting. More about that later as we do the focus time on Mars. And then finally, the last quarter moon. So this is where after the full moon, the moon moves around faster, and the moon has come 90 degrees around the zodiac, or 1/4 of the circle of the zodiac, and it's at a square aspect to the sun, because 90 degrees is a square aspect. It's a challenging aspect. It's tense. It drives us to get things done, to complete things for the lunar month, to finish off some projects. Not so much, not usually very, very huge projects, but the monthly kind of things that we're working on, to tick off your to-do list. And also it can be about reaping some rewards from that month, so gathering in the harvest of whatever you've been doing that month. And that can take a little bit of work, to perhaps it's sending out invoices to get payments for work that you've done during the month. Perhaps it is actually harvesting some vegetables or fruits and processing those, or that can be a metaphor for whatever it is. So we get that every month, that finishing off energy and the reaping the rewards of the lunar month. And so that's it for the transits of the week. Not so much in the terms of transits, but plenty going on. And we've got these upcoming events. On the 12th or 13th of April, looking ahead, Mars conjunct Neptune, and then a week later, Mars conjunct Saturn, and in between that, the new moon in Aries. So all of those are this very Aries energy, and I'll be talking about that in the focus. So on the 25th or 26th of April, Uranus moving into Gemini. That's going to be a big moment. So now I'm going to talk about Mars and Aries. Aries, where Mars is at full strength, powerful, bold, direct, driving forward, initiating and taking action, and ready to fight. Okay, so Mars is in its home sign in Aries. So Mars and Aries are absolutely very well aligned, and that is why Mars is at full strength. Mars is about desire. Mars is full of energy. It's like our warrior. Wherever you have Mars in your chart, you are kind of a go-getter, and it might not always be obvious, because if you've got Mars in Pisces, for example, you get things in a more roundabout and perhaps a more peaceful kind of way. If you have Mars in Capricorn, you'll be doing it in a more strategic and long-term way. Those are just some examples, but there is a go-getting energy of desire and going out to get what you want for yourself. It's quite, I'm using the word selfish, but I don't want to use that in a negative way. It's thinking about you yourself, putting yourself first, and we all need to do that in life, because that story of the oxygen mask. Always put the oxygen mask on yourself. Look after yourself before you save somebody else's life. So all that energy of Mars is also the energy of Aries, this energy of driving forward, getting what one wants, having a gut instinct, like operating out of impulse and instinct. There's such a strong instinct, not overthinking things. Last week we had the full moon in Libra, and that Libra can overthink things. Aries, not so. Aries just goes for it. So very direct and bold and honest in that way, which is really cool. So some of what I've said there, Mars moving into Aries, Mars is powerful. Take action, initiate new adventures, and fight a good fight. All right. So Mars takes around 2 years to go around the zodiac. So it's not in Aries every year. And every so often Mars is held up by a 2-month long retrograde. it won't be going retrograde while it's in the sign of Aries. So we just have 6 weeks of Mars in Aries. And some other words to describe Mars in Aries: spontaneous, forward-looking, courageous, having a competitive spirit. The goal is to win, and being active, physically active, single-minded, and confident, self-assured. So all of this energy can be really helpful for that Aries part of your chart, wherever that is, and I'll talk about that in the All Signs breakdown. You'll be more ready to go for things and get things done and have more confidence as you do it, self-assuredness, which can be wonderful for those of us who, which I believe is everyone in a lot of areas, have troubles with self-confidence. So Mars can really help with that, and Mars in Aries, lots of energy. Here are some of the challenges of Mars in Aries, okay? So I'll just read out my words there, but they come from Mars and Aries being, just no holds barred. Everything is just go for it and not thinking too much. So impatience, being impulsive, quick to anger, arrogant sometimes, thoughtless, lacking diplomacy, being too competitive, argumentative, aggressive. That fine line between being assertive and being aggressive. We'll have to be watching that. Having no filter and pushing yourself too hard, and that could be whether that's when you're taking initiative and starting new projects, or whether that's physically, like you might be really ready to get into some physical hard out exercise with this, and just be careful of your body as you do that. But the advantages are great. Okay, so being more independent, assertive, confident, and bold, having a healthy sense of competition, because that can be very much needed in life. Courageous, willing to take action, having a strong drive, no beating about the bush, just getting on with things, enterprising, straightforward, direct, and physically active. A good one for getting some exercise. So overall, this pioneering energy, breaking into new territory. Mars and Aries are wonderful for that, for going out where nobody has gone before, or going out where you have not gone before. So just before I talk about Mars and Aries for your sign, I'm going to briefly go through the aspects that Mars will make as it moves through Aries. It's going to be meeting up with Neptune and Saturn and Chiron. Those three are very, very slow, and it's very significant that they're all in Aries, and all of this is adding to that incredible, these changes in the world that we're seeing, because the slow planets bring about the slow changes that affect the whole world. So we're just seeing the world changing so much. All these planets in Aries are also part of this energy of fighting and war and conflict that we're seeing, sadly. That is the downside of it. But Neptune is about idealism, and Saturn can slow things down and bring sensible boundaries to things. So hopefully that will happen. Mars is certainly going to be adding to that fighting energy, but it can also be bringing about these wonderful changes, moving into more idealism with Neptune, more charity and compassion, and moving into sensible structures for moving forward with Saturn, and with the Chiron, some healing. So I'll briefly go through those transits, because as Mars goes past each one of these planets, that is going to be a trigger point or an activation point for these other longer, slower, more long-term and fundamental, profound energies. A few days after Mars moves into Aries, it will meet us in a conjunction with Neptune. Neptune, who is the god of the ocean, the planet that helps us to remember about universal compassion, charity, idealism, romance. It's a planet of glamour. It's also a planet of falsehood and deception, false news, and being vague and operating under illusion. So Mars will be triggering that. On the one hand, the positive side of this is that it could be bringing out the desire to fight for the underdog, to stand up for the underdog, to take initiative to help people who have more troubles, who are dispossessed, who are less fortunate, who need supports, charitable works. The downside of this could be the glamorization of war, romanticizing, over idealizing conflict. All right. So in the calendar, I wrote, act for the dispossessed or for spiritual connection, avoid glamorizing war. And I put the time period of that as 2 or 3 days because Mars transits usually last 2 or 3 days. But this is a big energy in general because of Neptune and Aries, Aries being the sign of war and the sign of initiative, and Neptune with its representing of mystique and glamour, but also helping people who are less fortunate, having compassion and having charitable ideas. Okay. All right, and then on Thursday the 16th or Friday the 17th of April, Mars will be sextile Pluto. This is not as important a one, but it's still going to pack a punch because Pluto and Mars, they are both very strong with their willpower and their motivation and desire. So there'll be support for bringing your desire to move forward from your deep motivations that could come with this. All right. And then we've got a new moon. So this is not to do with Mars, but it is a new moon in the sign of Aries at the end degrees of Aries. And so it's bringing even more Aries energy with the sun and moon coming into conjunction at that time. And then we have another of the big significant moments where this Mars is conjunct Saturn at 7 degrees, nearly 8 degrees of Aries. That will be on Sunday the 19th of April or Monday the 20th of April. So we recently had at the end of February the Saturn-Neptune conjunction where Saturn with its brings its sensible structures, boundaries, restrictions, rules, duties and responsibilities. It can be a real downer, Saturn. It can be very limiting, but it does help us to structure things in very practical and sensible ways. And Mars might, Mars has got all this warrior fighting energy, and Saturn might bring some sensible restriction to things. And it also, on the upside, that's an upside, but also it could help us to be really determined to build sensible structures with whatever we are initiating. And as I said again in there, that is a 2 or 3 day transit, that energy will be very strong. But this is a very strong energy in general because of Saturn and Aries being together. These new initiatives that this Aries energy, this epic new beginning with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries is bringing about this big story, this big journey, this new way of being and an unfolding development over the next 30 years. And Saturn's energy will be helping us to build that in sensible, well-structured, long-lasting ways. So extra energy for that while Mars is conjunct. And then we have a conjunction of Mercury and Mars. These two were recently conjunct in the sign of Pisces when Mercury was retrograde, and there would have been an earlier conjunction. That might have been in Aquarius, actually. So this is a third time. This could bring about fighting words, arguments, because Mercury is about communication and messages, talking. It's also about planning. So the challenge of this will be to try and stop us using words that are too sharp and too argumentative, and instead to send that energy to being determined, assertive with our words and the things that we say, the statements that we make. Okay. And then Mars has a square to Jupiter. So this could be very energizing. Jupiter brings about expansion and growth and confidence. Mars is already about doing new things and being confident. So lots of energy with this one. Take care not to go too far. And then another important one. Chiron has been moving through Aries for the last 7 years, around about 7 years. It's soon going to move into Taurus. We've had a kind of wound to the Aries part of our chart while Chiron's been moving through here since 2019. And that is nearly coming to an end, and because of Chiron soon to be moving into the sign of Taurus. When Mars comes along, we might find some ways coming up. We might find some things coming up that show us the ways that we're limited, or we've got some kind of wound or an insecurity or a sense of shame even about how we take initiative in the world, like how we take action in the world. And whatever part of your chart Aries falls in, which I'll talk about in the All Signs breakdown, that has had this trouble since 2019. Mars might show that up when it has this conjunction. So there might be some problems and challenges that come up to do with that inner wound that you've got, or an illness even that you've got, and that's affecting that Aries part of your chart. And then finally, on Monday, the 18th of May, or Tuesday, the 19th of May, Mars moves into the sign of Taurus, and it will be more peaceful and patient there. So now I'm going to do a sign-by-sign breakdown about Mars moving through the sign of Aries so that you can see what part of your chart and your life this is affecting. So I'll be talking about the fact that Mars is in full strength in its home sign of Aries. It's powerful, it's bold, it's feisty, fighty as well, like ready to have a fight. But the energy can be used really positively to drive forward and take new initiatives and to be bold, daring, courageous. All right, and so this is between the 9th and 10th of April up to the 18th or 19th of May. And I'm going to start from the sign of Aries. If you are Aries, sun, moon, or rising, but especially Aries rising, Mars is moving into your sign. Mars is your ruler, Aries. This is going to be strong for you, powerful. This is your own planet in your sign. So there's a big strength and sense of self-assurance and confidence with this. And you've got so much happening for you, Aries, like big life changes because of Neptune and Saturn and their conjunction. And then Saturn's going to be in your sign for the next 2 years, and Neptune's going to be there for the next 13 or 14 years, moving through your sign and really changing things. But over the 6 weeks, you also have Mars there, your ruler, and you love to be direct, Aries. You love to be bold and just go out and do things right now with your gut instinct operating, telling you, do this, drive forward, don't hold back, just get things done and get what you want. And so you're going to have extra strength to be doing this. And it's going to be affecting all areas of your life because this is your first house. So it's going to be affecting your partnership. Get what you want, reach out for what you want with your partner. Your home. Aim for what you want with your home life. Do you even want to have the home that you've got at the moment? Do you want to change that up? Take the initiative. And your career, about everything in your life. So you are powerful, you're bold, you're direct. Remember to take things easy a little bit. And by that, I mean think about things before you do them. Try to. You won't want to. You'll want to just go for it. And sometimes that is the right thing to do, to just go right now. But sometimes it could be a good idea to check in with your partner, check in with people around you, have a couple of second thoughts before you just go ahead and open your mouth, especially, and try and have some consideration and empathy for others, which will come up when Mars is conjunct Neptune, but yeah, you might be just really ready to be going forward and without thinking. So try and do some thinking. And because the first house is also about your actual body, your physical body on earth, um, you'll probably want to be doing a lot of physical stuff. And so take care not to go too far and wear yourself out too much or injure yourself, but mostly that you do have good energy to get into some physicality, some physical exercise. And especially when Mars is conjunct Saturn, that could be a time to start an exercise routine that you want to commit to, because Saturn is about the long term and doing things in a steady and slow way. So all the best for that, Aries. Such an exciting time for you and a lot of focus on you in the world and your kind of energy, and try and send out as well the peaceful vibes and patience with others when you can. So all the best, Aries, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Taurus, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Taurus Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April until the 18th to 19th of May, Mars will be in Aries. So Mars is at full strength in Aries. This is your 12th house, the house of your dreams, the house of how you escape from the world. It's also a house of connections to places and organizations that are separate from the rest of the world. They're a little bit on the outer in terms of they're almost like hidden from the world. And this can be like hospitals, care homes, prisons. And if you have any involvement with any of those, it could be that Mars and Aries helps you to be quite decisive while it's in there. And if you need to make decisions about somebody's care or your own care in a hospital setting or a care home setting, you could be quite decisive, bold, confident, and assured about it. All right. The 12th house can also be about your connections with distant places, like foreign places, overseas and far away, and whether that is with financially or your connections with actual people who come from there, or actually traveling. And again, you could be quite bold and determined and able to drive forward with confidence with any decisions that you make. All right. And the 12th house can also be about our patterns of escape and our escape like practices. Whether this is on the more positive side, some really good ways of resting and retreating and dreaming and connecting to spirit. So, spirituality, and with that can also come wonderful creativity. And you might be quite determined to do some of these. Okay, and you could be decisive and bold and ready to start new initiatives, perhaps a new spiritual practice, perhaps really determined that you're going to sort out problems with your sleep, and you do that in a really bold, courageous way. Even maybe you say to people who want you to stay and party, maybe you say, no, I need to go to bed by 10 p.m. and you're really firm and bold about that. So helping with your sleep, because the 12th house is about that way that we're separate from the world, and dreams as well. And I hope if you get to sleep longer that you can have some dream time, because sometimes if you don't sleep enough, it's hard to have dreams. The downside of the 12th house and the escapism of the 12th house can be about patterns of behavior that are bad for us, that undo us, our self undoing. Okay, and that can include addictions or habits that are not very healthy that we do for comfort. And with Mars there, especially at the time that Mars is conjunct Saturn, so that is around about the 20th of April, you could have more determination to sort out, address some of the patterns of addiction or problems where you're escaping too much, like too much scrolling, too much watching stuff, too much eating things that are not good for you, or consumption of substances that are not so great. So lots of power with that Taurus. And on the 18th or 19th of May, Mars is coming into your sign. That's going to be bringing a lot of decisiveness and determination in your whole life. So please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Gemini Rising, Mars is moving into Aries and on the 9th or 10th of April, and it will be in Aries until the 18th or 19th of May. Aries is your 11th house, Gemini. This is the house of your rewards from work. It's a house of your long-term goals, and it's a house of your groups of friends. So Mars is going to be in full strength, powerful, and it might make you quite determined and bold. Let's start with friendship groups. Maybe you'll be ready to move into a new group. I remember my daughter talked about a friend of hers who decided that her friends, teenager at the time, her friends weren't that great. She wasn't doing so well with her friendships, and she chose out a group in the school, which was my daughter's group, that she wanted to be part of, and she very, very actively and deliberately invited them all, even though she didn't really know them, to a social event at her house, and gradually over time became part of that group. She did it in a bold way, she did it in a confident way, and because of that it was very attractive, and they were quite ready to accept her because she was self-assured and she had that glow of confidence about her. This is the kind of thing that you could do while Mars is in this house of friendships. You could take bold action to go out and form new friendships. So good luck with that if you decide to do it. Rewards from work. You might be determined to work towards a promotion. You might be determined to review the way that you're working so that you can work in ways that bring you higher status, perhaps, because that is a reward from work, or higher income. All right. And there's a lot of initiative and driving energy to do this, and you'll feel more confident as you do it. And then long term goals. Well, Mars in Aries is a great one for long-term goals because you'll have a lot of confidence to take action, a lot of drive to take action and initiative, and you'll be feeling bolder, more courageous, and ready to go after those long-term goals. And there's some really important stuff for your long-term goals, Gemini, because of that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries that's starting a whole new journey for your long-term goals in life, and of course as well as that friendship groups and rewards from work. So all the best for that, Gemini. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and good luck with that. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April, Mars is moving into the sign of Aries. This is your career house, this is your career house, Cancer. Aries is your career house. It's going to be there for 6 weeks, and it's going to be giving you additional boldness, self-assuredness, determination to achieve your goals in your career. With Saturn in the mix, and especially with the Saturn conjunction around about the 20th of April, you'll be willing to work slowly and steadily for the long term with your goals. With Neptune in the mix, you might be quite idealistic about your career. And if you don't have a career at the moment, like a paid career, the 10th house where Mars is at the moment, where Aries lies, is also about your status and your reputation in the world, and even your legacy, like what you leave behind in the world. Mars going through Aries, adding this additional energy and power and confidence, is part of a bigger, longer, slower story, because Neptune and Saturn had their conjunction, once in 36-year conjunction, in the sign of your career at the end of February, and that is an unfolding story over the next few decades. And it's pretty epic because Aries is a sign of pioneering and breaking into new ground. So there's a big long-term story unfolding for you, and Mars is going to be giving you that determination and boldness to make stuff happen while it's there over that 6 weeks. So all the best for that, Cancer, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Leo Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April until the 18th or 19th of May, Mars is in Aries, your 9th house. you're going to be having additional confidence, boldness, and determination when it comes to your travel, higher learning, or your spiritual beliefs. So we'll talk about each of those. The ninth house is about travel and going off on adventures. This can be, lots of my friends are into outdoor adventures, so it can include that, but definitely traveling to other countries. And Leo, you're a fire sign, so you like taking initiative, and you're quite confident and bold anyway, so you've got additional energy for this when it comes to travel, and maybe it's about making new plans to travel. And when it comes to spiritual beliefs and spiritual practices, perhaps it is having more determination and focus and drive to follow your spiritual practice. Perhaps you very determinedly get up at 6 in the morning and do your meditation and your yoga and read an esoteric text if that is your practice. Especially when Mars is conjunct Saturn around about the 20th of April. That's a very good one if you want to set out on a long-term program, because Saturn is dedicated, steady, and dutiful, and it will do things, it'll work at things in a slow, steady way. It's happy with routines. Okay. When it comes to philosophy of life and understanding the meaning of life, and this includes higher learning like university learning. It might be that you're signing up for a program of study with a university or at a university or degree level, okay? And you'll have a lot of determination, conviction about this, and especially with Neptune in the mix, there could be some idealism about this program, like you might be thinking about a way that you can help the world. um, the ninth house is about our pursuit of the meaning of life, however that is, through travel, through spiritual practice, through higher learning. So there could be with this a lot of real determination and dedication to searching out for that meaning of life, like trying to understand how life works on this broader, wider, uh, uh, expanded level. So all the best for that, Leo. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. The ninth house is a lucky house, so have a lot of fun with that. If you are Virgo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Virgo Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April until the 18th or 19th of May, Mars is in Aries in your 8th house. The 8th house is a house of shared resources, especially with a partner, like a business partner or a life partner. Okay, it's also a house of large amounts of money, like investments, inheritances, taxes, retirement savings. So Mars is at full strength here. You've got a lot of energy to be working on these, taking new initiatives. Perhaps you decide, especially when Mars is conjunct Neptune and you're getting into that idealistic phase, because Neptune's very idealistic, you might decide to change your investment funds to more ethical funds. When it comes to Mars going with Saturn, you might be thinking very carefully about saving in an organized way for your retirement, and because Saturn does things slowly, steadily, in a responsible way for the long term. Okay, and over all of this, you might be feeling quite determined to sort things out with your long-term savings and your finances and your shared resources with your partner. Determined, bold, ready to take action. Make sure that you're fair as you're doing this, because you'll have a lot of determination, I think, to speak for yourself. So think with fairness as you're doing it. The 8th house can also be about deep intimacy with another, and all of what I said could go with that. There could be a lot of passion during this time, but also a willingness to understand and a determination, perhaps even to understand your partner at a deep level, or a partner. So do respect their need for privacy or boundaries with that, but it could be really helpful to help things on a deeper level. And the 8th house is also about occult matters, so going into the underlying esoteric layers, using divination practices, especially when you're looking at the deeper underlying motivations. And also, if you're not into all of that, not into the that kind of spiritual woo-woo stuff, it could be about underlying deep psychological layers and going down, deep down, into your underlying motivations. What is behind everything? The eighth house is a house of crisis and transformation, and you might be quite determined to work through crises that you're in and to try to get to transformation. It's not going to be easy, but you could be a lot better off for doing it, for going down underneath what happened to you when you were a child, especially when Mars is conjunct Neptune on the around the middle of May. Okay, what happened to you as you were a child that caused you to have a sense of shame or lack of self-belief, or perhaps past life stuff? So you've got an opportunity to be quite determined and bold as you address these. Good luck with that, Virgo. Not the easiest. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. This could be very transformative. Okay. If you are Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Libra Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April, Mars is moving into Aries, and it will be there until the 18th or 19th of May in your 7th house. This is a house of partnership, and this can be business partners or life partners or anybody that you work with or do things together with on a one-to-one basis. Perhaps if you go hiking or tramping, it could be your tramping partner. In New Zealand, we call it tramping instead of hiking. Mars is at full strength. You've got a lot of determination with your partner and with partnerships. So you might be quite determined to form partnerships, to negotiate and to be diplomatic, but to speak up very strongly for yourself in these relationships. And Libra, you have a tendency to put yourself behind a little bit because you're so determined to form partnership, and there'll be a lot of determination for that, and I think also the willingness to listen to the other person. Okay, so always you do need to remember to put yourself first, Libra. I'm not sure how this will play out actually. Will it be that you are more bold and determined about your own needs, or will it be that you're more bold and determined to put your partner's needs first? So let me know in the comments what happens with that. So in business, this could be really good for making deals, taking initiative to form partnerships. In your relationships, it might be that you are more bold than you normally are, more courageous about moving something that could be a dating relationship forward into a more committed relationship. Yes. Okay. So you'll have more confidence and self-assurance as you do that. So all the best for that, Libra. So I'll just add, so early on in this phase, there could be a lot of idealism as Mars goes past Neptune. And then around the middle of it, around the 20th, Mars will be going through with Saturn. And if there were any commitments to be made to partnership, this could be a good time to be signing on the dotted line, because Saturn is about the long term, committed and responsible. And then later on, when Saturn goes past Chiron, there could be some perhaps challenges in terms of where you're looking at any wound that you've got around relationship, attachment wounds, in codependency. You could be looking at those because they could come up with that Chiron energy, and you could be quite determined to address those, and that could be very helpful. So all the best for that, Libra, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Scorpio Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April, Mars will move into Aries, and it will be there until the 18th or 19th of May. Scorpio, this is your 6th house, and the 6th house is about your daily routines in life for health or exercise, and it could be that while Mars is in Aries, you've got this extra energy and determination and boldness when it comes to sorting out how you run your life on a daily basis. What time do you get up in the morning? Do you do your exercises then? What do you eat in terms of the times that you make your food and what food you're making? What time do you leave for work if you go to work? And especially if you work from home, that could be a really good time to structure that in a good way, to take new initiatives, to be quite determined as you do it, especially when Mars is crossing over Saturn around about the 20th of April. You'll have a lot of energy and determination to sort things out in a very practical way, realistic way, so that, be very pragmatic about what can actually work in your daily routines. Now, perhaps the most important aspect of the sixth house is how you give service in the world. All right, so this can be in your daily work that you actually get paid for, or it can be in volunteer work, or it could be like even just your friends that just show up and need you to fix things because you're really good at fixing things. Even if you're not paid for it, you're known to do this, and it is a way that you give service in the world. And in fact, the sixth house is not necessarily stuff that you're known to be doing. It can be where you're quietly working behind the scenes in ways that help the world in practical ways, especially with Neptune in the sign of Aries at the moment, and Mars will be conjunct Neptune on around the 13th of April. We can be quite idealistic. So you might be thinking then about how you can help people who are less fortunate, and you'll be quite determined and ready to follow ideals, even romanticize that a little bit. But that can be great because it could help people. Then on the 20th, you'll be more realistic with the Saturn conjunction with Mars there. And then towards the end of the transit, around the middle of May, Mars will be conjunct Chiron, and it could be that you've got some kind of wound in this area, the sixth house of how you give service in the world and how you organize your life, because Chiron's been there and it's the wounded healer asteroid. So there's maybe been some sense of lack, some problems, some abandonment issues, even attachment issues, even some kind of feeling of shame or insecurity, or an actual problem like maybe you lost a job, or maybe you lost the ability to do some of your routines that you normally would do. And that has been since 2019. It's coming to an end because Chiron will move into Taurus later. But Mars crossing over Chiron might bring out some of those feelings of woundedness and help you notice the lack. And it might be a good chance to take some initiatives to help with that. All right, bold and determined initiative. So all the best for that, Scorpio. You'll be quite comfortable with that feeling of bold determination because you've got that, Scorpio. Mars is a co-ruler of your own sign, and you can also be bringing your great sense of strategy to all of this. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Sagittarius rising, sun, moon, or rising, especially rising, on the 9th or 10th of April until the 18th or 19th of May, Mars is in Aries. That is your fifth house, Sagittarius, the fifth house of how you create things in the world and share them with the world, and the people see you and they admire you and follow you even. It's also a house of creative expression, like I said, what you do from the heart and express in a free and joyful way. It's also a house of hobbies in general, your children, playfulness, and romance and dating. So you've got this epic new journey that's unfolding with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that was in February, that will be unfolding over the next few decades. But at the moment, for that 6 weeks, you've got Mars there, making you very determined to take initiatives in any of these areas. Maybe you get more bold and courageous when it comes to dating, when it comes to asking someone out or going on the online apps. Maybe you're more bold and courageous and determined with your children. You take some initiative to help your children. And then also it's about your creative hobbies and how you share them with the world. So that could be a great one to be taking initiative to be bold, to be determined, and courageous. Okay, you've got a lot of fire anyway. You've got this fiery energy of Aries anyway, Sagittarius, because you are a fire sign. So all of this initiatory energy could be quite comfortable for you. The adventurous spirit. Okay, early on in the transit, Mars will cross Neptune, and so you could be quite idealistic and romanticized about any of these things. So a little bit of a rosy glow going on there, and determined with that rosy glow. So determined to be idealistic about the romance, or about your children, or about your creative projects. And then later on, around about the 20th of April, Mars will be conjunct Saturn. And that's where you might get more realistic and practical about how you can build whatever your new initiative, whether it's romance or something with your kids, or something with your hobbies or creative expressions and pursuits. Yeah, more determined and more able to build a solid structure that could be long lasting and realistic. Okay, and then later in the transit, Mars will cross Chiron, and this could be bringing to light and helping you to boldly address perhaps some areas of lack of confidence, or lack in general, or feelings of even abandonment or shame, because Chiron is about all of those things. It's the wounded healer asteroid, and Mars might highlight some of these, but also make you determined and courageous in terms of addressing them. So all the best for that, Sagittarius, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Capricorn Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April until the 18th or 19th of May, Mars is in Aries. That is your fourth house, Capricorn. This is the house of your home and family, your family of origin, the people you live with, properties that you own. Perhaps you are fully ready, determined to take initiative in terms of renovating a home, in terms of moving house. It's likely to be a change, a new start, and it's part of an epic long story that's unfolding over the next 2 or 3 decades, 3 or 4 actually, 3 decades, with Saturn, Neptune having recently had their conjunction in the early degrees in late February, the early degrees of Aries. Mars is your exaltation lord, Capricorn. Mars is exalted in your sign, so wherever Mars goes, you're probably pretty happy with what it does. It is ambitious, which you're comfortable with. It's determined, which you're very comfortable with, and it's bold and courageous, and that's going to be helping you make these changes, start these new initiatives, and develop these new projects in your fourth house of your home and your family. And perhaps this could be, as I said, renovations, moving home. It could be taking initiative with something with your family of origin to connect everybody, perhaps. Early on in the transit, Mars will be conjunct Neptune, and that could be bringing out some romance and idealism, and perhaps a willingness to be charitable or compassionate. Later on, around about the 20th, Mars will be conjunct Saturn, which is your ruler, Capricorn, and this could be a good energy for determination to set up things that are realistic, practical, committed for the long term, and well structured. It could even be about signing a contract in terms of engaging a builder, something like that. And there's a commitment to something there. And later on in the transit, Mars will be conjunct Chiron. Chiron's been going through this fourth house of your home and family since 2019. It's a wounded healer asteroid, and it might have been bringing about some problems, a sense of lack. Perhaps something happened back there where you lost a home, or you lost the ability to have people in your home that you wanted to have, or you lost some connection or goodwill with your family of origin. And Mars coming across this aspect might highlight that and bringing about a feeling of lack or sense of abandonment or shame, even insecurity. Okay, or just actually the outer circumstances of any kind of lack in the area of your home or family. So Mars could highlight that, but also make you quite determined to address these matters and work on them in a positive way, a determined way and bold way at least. So all the best for that, Capricorn. I think you'll do well with this, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April until the 18th or 19th of May, Mars will be in Aries. This is your third house, Aquarius. The third house will be the third house rules so many things. I'm going to list them, and usually I forget some and I'll have to add them in later. But to start with, the third house is about your community, your neighborhoods, and your neighbors. It's about how you move around the community, how you travel, like commute, your short distance travel. The third house is about schools and learning, especially learning in your local neighborhood. So that can be local courses and schools, like I said, teaching and learning. The third house is about trade and exchange, any kind of messaging, communication. And the third house can be about your small business and marketing. The third house is also about siblings and your brothers and sisters and other extended family members like your cousins, aunties, uncles, nephews, nieces. So all of these have Mars going through, making you determined to start new things, bold and courageous with it, and definitely this energy of initiative. And Mars is setting off some of that Saturn-Neptune conjunction that happened at the end of February in this house. And that is a story that's unfolding over the next few decades. But Mars, for the 6 weeks, is bringing extra initiatory, determined, confident, and ambitious energy towards starting things that are part of this longer story. Okay, so it might be that you are initiating a reconnection with your siblings. It might be that you're starting some kind of course, whether that's learning or teaching a course. You're determined, you're bold, you're more self-assured than usual. Any of those kinds of things. So early on in the transit, Mars will meet with Neptune, which might make you more idealistic and ready to do things that are charitable or helping people, and perhaps even romanticizing some of your ideals. Around about the 20th, Mars will meet with Saturn, which could be challenging because it brings restrictions, but it also could make you quite determined to set things up, these new initiatives, to set them up in ways that are practical, realistic, and well structured for the long term, and well structured to bring results. And then at the end of the transit, Mars will meet with Chiron around about the middle of May, and that could highlight some area of woundedness. You've had Chiron going through this third house of yours for the last 6 years, since 2019. There may have been lack. Maybe you don't have neighbours. Actually, I've got a friend who's been house sitting all over the country, in different parts of the country, and it will have made it harder for her to form relationships with neighbours, to form community. It could also be a feeling of lack, or could be bringing out a feeling of shame, or even a sense of abandonment, or just lack in the outer circumstances. So this also could be about siblings. While Mars is there, that could be challenging, but also make you determined and willing and bold, courageous in terms of how you address these issues of lack or abandonment. So all the best for that at Aquarius. I think you will do well with this transit, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Pisces, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Pisces Rising, on the 9th or 10th of April until the 18th or 19th of May, Mars will be in Aries, and that is your second house, Pisces. This is the house of your finances, of your money, your income, your earnings, your resources and possessions. And this is for me as well, because I'm a Pisces rising. Mars will be in full strength, helping us to be more determined, bold, courageous, to take action, to start new initiatives while it moves through the sign of Aries. Okay, so that could be good because Pisces, me as well, we can be floaty and dreamy and very having a lot of faith that money will just come to us. And yes, that works. A lot of the time it works really well. But for me anyway, I think it will be very healthy for me to have some focus on this area to improve my finances. Early in the transit, Mars will meet with Neptune, and that might make us quite idealistic, even romanticized, even looking at creative projects and perhaps looking at ways we can help the world, um, because Neptune is all about that. So Mars might make us really determined to do some of those things. And then a bit later on, around about the 20th, Mars will meet with Saturn. This could be challenging because Saturn brings restrictions, but it could make us really determined and bold in terms of making commitments to things and initiatives that will work for the long term in realistic ways. It could be signing on a contract because there's this commitment with Saturn, and it could be about us, yeah, signing up to do something or really looking at how we can practically improve our finances over the long term in a steady way. It could be even starting a new job and having a steady income, but not in there'll be some challenge with it. There'll be a restriction about it. Maybe it's even having to give up another job, for example, that's a more fun job. And then later on in the transit, Saturn will meet up with Chiron, and Chiron's been in this house of our finances since 2019, bringing about some kind of lack, and maybe even a feeling of insecurity about our finances. This has definitely played out for me. And in 2019, I was made redundant, and I had a steady income before that. And since then, it hasn't been steady. So Mars might highlight some of this wound, this lack, and even on the inner level, a sense of abandonment about it, or a sense of insecurity, or feeling of being not enough. And so, with Mars highlighting that, that could be challenging, but it could also make us quite determined to address whatever these underlying psychological layers are that are going on that are making us feel the sense of abandonment, or just address the lack head on, because Mars is very head on. So, there we go, Pisces, a lot of energy in our second house of our finances and resources and income. So, I hope it goes well for you. I'm hoping I'll just get some really good ideas and new ways to initiate things that will be lucrative. So all the best for that, Pisces, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. So there we go, everyone. That is all from me. All the best for that Mars transit through the sign of Aries and that additional boldness and daringness and courage and determination that we're going to have during that. Remember, act in peace, speak words of peace, check in with others around us, and that Neptune is going to remind us about compassion. So we'll have to keep that in mind as we go through. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and bye for now.